Happy Place Home Studios.
Hello and welcome to Happy Place Home Studio. Today we're going to talk about a mixer, a digital mixer, how to set it up, how to use it, why you'd use it, and what we're going to be working with is a very nice little unit, the Yamaha MG12XU. Now this mixer has been around for quite some time. In fact, there's a whole line of the MG series from Yamaha. And they have different designations based on how many tracks they have. For example, there's a 12XU, there's a 20XU. There's a few different designations that you can become familiar with. And depending on your needs, they got very small 4 or 6 track mixers. I've got the 12, the 20, etc. So what we're going to talk about today is not just setting this up and using it for some basic things like a microphone, a vocal track, a guitar track, but also just talk about why would you use a mixer. You know, most of my videos and what I talk about for Happy Place Home Studio is digital mixing with a DAW and a lot of equipment, but there's lots of reasons that you might use a mixer, including gigging out on the road, including just having something simple that you can take anywhere to do some writing. There's lots of reasons that you might want to use a mixer. Now, in my case, I've also had a Mackie mixer for many years that I've used in my studio, and the most likely use of this Yamaha is to replace that Mackie. So, what we're going to cover is starting from scratch, because it's really important that if you're going to use a mixer that you understand how it operates to keep your eardrums intact, because it's very easy to, especially if you don't follow good procedures, to hook up your external sound system or even just your headphones to get an overload and too much noise coming out of that mixer. So there's some really easy procedures to follow to set it up. We'll go through some of those. And we'll look at everything from just basic operations to actually using this with your DAW, because one of the nice things about the Yamaha is it's got USB drivers and you can use it to track into your digital audio workstation. And we'll also look at just some basic effects and things like that you can do with the mixer. So let's get started looking at the Yamaha MG12XU. We're going to dive in on the how-to side with a very basic setup of a microphone with the mixer. And we're going to pretty carefully follow the procedures that Yamaha lays out in their manual, because it's really important, especially if you haven't used a mixer before, and especially if you have external powered amplifiers. I really recommend that you start with headphones, as we are here. It's really important that you bring things up slowly, that you not plug everything in at once and turn every knob all the way up at once and that type of thing, because you can really cause some damage to your ears. The procedures that they lay out are good procedures for making sure you have good sound levels before any sound ever gets out of the mixer, that you're not overdriving it, and that you're proceeding in a way that's going to give you a good result with your sound. So I've got a microphone. I've got the cables to hook up, and I've obviously got the mixer ready to go. And we'll be taking a close-up view of that mixer as we go through the setup process. So let's dive right in and get a microphone working with our Yamaha MG12XU mixer. Now, I've already unboxed the MG12XU. I'm not a big unboxing guy, but there really wasn't much to the unboxing of this unit. There was a power cord, there's the unit, there's a manual, simple. I will say one thing about the unit, which is that it needs a USB cable to hook up to your PC or your Mac. And that USB cable should be included, especially since the unit is a little bit older technology and it requires a USB 2, the square USB connector cable. And so they really should include that cable. I fortunately had one here, but a lot of people would not have one. They'd have to go find one on Amazon or whatever. No huge deal, but just a note. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hook up the microphone cable that I've got here. And this is a pretty easy operation. I'm going to use channel 1. And I'll go ahead and just plug that in. There we go. Simple. All right, and now we're going to go through the very specific process that is recommended by Yamaha and specifically designed so that you don't overrun your volume levels and have any kind of volume level problem, especially if you have an external speaker. Now, in my case, I never use an external speaker to start with, partially because I don't want to have that kind of problem. I'm just going to use the microphones. So the phones jack is right up here. Plug that in, and that'll make that simple. So the recommended procedure from Yamaha is that you first start with your PFL button, which is your pre-fader level button, and your gain button to get to a point where you've got a good level that's not exceeding 0 on the PFL meter too much. So the PFL control area is right up here on the mixer. So I'm going to use track 1, and the PFL button is just to the right of each track. So I'm going to click on the PFL button here, and then you'll see a couple of things that are going on. I'm not really that close to the microphone, but I've already got my voice coming through the microphone. And also you see that there's a red flashing indicator down here that tells us that the PFL is active on at least one of your tracks. So now I'm going to use the gain button. All right, so here's my level that I'm at, and I'm actually pretty close to where I want to be right now. So if I turn the gain button all the way down, I'll see I don't have anything going on. If I turn it up and keep talking at the normal level or a level that I want to represent, how I'm going to record, I want to move that gain level up to the point where I'm not exceeding 0 too often or at all. So I'm getting there. That should be, well, I've got the gain all the way up. So that's probably going to work for us right about there. All right, so that now tells us that we've got the PFL level that we want. So I will go ahead and turn the PFL off. Okay, next, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to actually use the stereo track. And to do so, I'm going to do a couple things. First of all, right in this area here, I've got 2 buttons that control where the output for this track is going. One is channel 1, 2, and one is the stereo track. And over here, I've got the stereo track's fader, okay? So I'm going to turn on the stereo track button right here, and then I'm going to turn on the track itself. So here's my on, and then I'm going to bring the fader for track 1 up to the 0 level, and then I'm going to also turn on the stereo track. So I like the digital on buttons that show you which tracks are actually active. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring up the stereo track. And I should again start getting, and I want that to be up at the 0 level as well. And I'm going to again start getting the indicators that are telling me the level of sound I'm producing as I work into my microphone here. So that's how I'm going to get the stereo track working with my microphone on the first track that we've actually activated. Now obviously I'd be wearing my headphones and you'd be wearing your headphones, or using an external speaker if you're not following that advice as you do this. It's hard for me to let you hear what's on my headphones. So what I'm doing is I'm going to record what the mixer is hearing, the signal it's getting, onto my DAW, and show you what it would sound like in your headphones. As I raise the input level of the stereo fader, you will begin to hear, and then will fully hear, the recording that's coming from the microphone through the Yamaha and now being fed directly into my digital audio workstation. And so this is the sound quality that you get when recording from the Yamaha into the digital audio workstation. The signal is very clean, and of course there's a lot that can be done to make it even better, add effects, etc. So this is a demonstration of the difference between the audio that is coming through my cameras and the audio that's feeding directly to the DAW from the Yamaha. The next thing we'll try is to apply effects to the channel that we have created the vocal on, or that we have a vocal mic attached to. The effects are not bad. I mean, you know, they're not what you can get state-of-the-art for your DAW and that type of thing, but for easy application and very quick to implement, they're not horrible. And you have several different effects, you know, various different hall type reverbs and that kind of thing. That's what we're going to use, and a few other effects as well. You can apply the effects channel by channel, and there's a lot that you can control about the effects independently, and we'll take a look at that a little bit here. But right now we're just going to apply a single effect to this single channel, and let's take a look at how we do that. To apply effects to one or more channels involves several different areas of the interface of the Yamaha. The first is what I call the effects block here, and it shows the selected effect, which defaults and starts at number 1, which is not actually applied, by the way, unless you actually want to use effect 1. And this also has a program knob, which is what we're going to use to choose the effect that we want. So what we'll do is I'm going to use effect number 5, just for no particular reason other than I've used it before. I know what it does. Okay, there we go. And notice that I pressed the actual knob itself to select effect number 5. The second area that we'll use is the effects channel, which is the third channel from the right, and it's the last from the left that has the white knob, the white fader knob. Okay, and to activate the channel, we're going to do 3 things. First, we're going to choose the stereo, the ST button, and like any other track, you want to route that to the stereo mix. Choose ST. We're going to turn the track on, and then we're going to pull the fader all the way up to 0. Okay, so the effects channel is now ready to go. Now the third thing that we have to do is we have to actually use a couple of the knobs on the channel that we're applying the effect to. The second and fourth from the bottom. So you have your pan knob, then you have this aux FX volume knob, and so let's turn that up to about halfway and see what that does. So you'll actually start to hear the effect. And the effect volume up can obviously be controlled here, and its depth can be controlled by the channel fader. So I'm going to go ahead and use the fourth knob now, and this gives me some tone, some bass, some low end. And I can roll that up here to about halfway again. You can hear the difference, pretty pronounced. And then finally, you can control the overall depth of the effect with the fader. So I can change the amount that's being applied all the way down to 0, midpoint, and then all the way at 0. So you have a lot of nice controls over the effects that you're applying. There are different types of effects that you can apply. You cannot apply more than one effect to one channel, but you can apply different effects to multiple channels. So you have some real flexibility with the effects on this unit. Okay, our next task will be to hook up a guitar, an instrument. And we'll follow a similar procedure after we physically connect the guitar. to configuring with the mixer and setting the sound levels and being able to add that to our audio track on my DAW and the whole thing. So let's jump in and get started. Okay, the first thing we're actually going to do is we're going to physically connect the guitar. And to do that, I use a DI box whenever I'm, especially with my acoustic guitar. And this is the DI box that I've got in this particular case. It's a good one. And the DI box sets the level at a good level for using for recording and for a mixer. If you don't use the DI box, you can plug your guitar directly in, and the multi-interface jacks allow you to do that. So you can plug a guitar jack directly in. In this case, I've got the same connector as for the microphone from the DI box. So I'll go ahead and plug that in. There we go. Okay, and then I'll also plug the guitar in just a moment here. Now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and turn the tracks off, and we'll begin to configure the instrument track now. So I'll have to use my headphones for this. You won't be able to hear everything that happens here for just a moment. The way I'm hearing it through the microphones, but we'll get back there in just a couple of minutes. Okay. We'll plug the guitar in. Alright, as before, I will use the pre-fader level. And so my pre-fader interface section is on over here. I'm going to raise my level up to 0 here. Actually, I'm not going to do that quite yet. I'm going to use my gain on the second channel to set my volume level. And I'm using the kind of the level that I'll be strumming or playing the guitar. If I play the guitar a lot harder and louder, obviously I'd get closer to that 0 level. We're not going to get that close. I'm going to leave myself a little bit of headroom in setting that level. I'll turn the pre-fader level button off, and I'll go ahead and turn channel 2 on here and my stereo. And I'm going to add that to the stereo by clicking the ST button as we did before. There we go. And I'll bring my fader up to 0. Okay, that gives me the guitar, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add the vocal now, so that we can use the recording from the DAW for superior. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and add the guitar to the effects. And to do that, I've already got my effects on here. And I'm going to, as we did before, I will use the 2 special knobs here on track 2. First, to change the effect volume to add the guitar to the effects. So you can see the guitar is now added to that effects. And then I'll configure also the lower end. There we go. Okay, so we have added the instrument, physically connected it, and done the same processes to get it working with the mixer and the stereo out mix, which is now being picked up by my digital audio workstation. So we've got guitar and vocals both using the same effect. Now you have control over that channel by channel again with these 2 knobs here.
I'm a fool for you. I'm a fool for you. When I come home, as I sometimes do, I'm still your fool. All right, and now you know why I make my hobby studio work rather than singing. All right, so we have successfully added the guitar to the mix, to the effects and the stereo output. And there are obviously many, many variations of how you could be connecting this, but this is a very simple and straightforward connection of an acoustic guitar. Using a mixer in many recording and performance situations gives you a tremendous amount of flexibility. One thing we really didn't explore that much was the output options of the mixer, which are really varied. We did use the output and recorded to my DAW through USB. Obviously, my DAW also has many analog input options, so I could have taken the analog outs of the mixer into one of my audio processors and thus into my DAW, but I wanted to use that USB function. Here I'm using a different option, which is I'm taking the audio directly out here of the mixer and into my Blackmagic camera. It has a XLR input capability with an adapter, and I'm able to take this with a regular microphone cable, the output from the mixer directly into the camera, and that's what you're hearing right now. So you have a lot of different terrific options with your mixer. Now, mixers are useful for so many different things. As I mentioned, live performance, whether you're practicing or performing with your band or your bandmates, you can plug everybody in through the mixer and into your powered speakers and jam away. Obviously, for all kinds of speaking type engagements, mixers are used all the time. I find the mixer very useful just for composing, just for a simple setup. I can go sit anywhere in my home or outside and compose with the mixer. So there's all kinds of purposes and uses still today, despite all the computerization and all the digital audio workstations for a mixer. By way of review of the Yamaha MG12XU, I really do like the unit, and I like it compared, say, to my Mackie that I've had for many, many years. It's flexible, it's pretty reliable. The documentation could be better. They walk you through basically some of the same basic setups that I've walked you through, but there could be more in-depth information on the documentation. I think that it's a very flexible unit. I've seen more functionality on some mixers, but I think that the low price point, the high reliability of the Yamaha are a good combination. And I think it's a good addition to your home studio, especially if you've got those live performance requirements. So there's a couple of minor drawbacks to it, but nothing really worth mentioning or criticizing. I think that it's a competitive, good mixer. Okay, I hope you have enjoyed this information on Happy Place Home Studio, and we will look forward to seeing you again very soon. Thanks for watching.
I wish that I could put you in my pocket, so we would be together when I'm away. But I can't find a shirt with a big enough pocket, big enough for you and all your things. So I guess that I